Imagine this. You're driving down a dark, lonely road in the dead of night. The world around you is silent, the kind of silence that presses against your skin, sending a chill down your spine. But suddenly the air changes. Something feels off, wrong even. You can't explain it, but you know deep down that you're not alone. It's the kind of terror that sneaks up on you, the kind of fear that tightens your grip on the steering wheel. Something waits in the dark, something you can't see, or maybe something you don't want to see. Tonight, we're diving into 3 night drive stories based on true events, where a simple drive turned into an unimaginable nightmare. These are real stories, and the people involved were just like you, innocently driving through the night, only to find themselves face to face with horror. Our first story takes us to a quiet night in Lind, Minnesota, in the spring of 2008. 19-year-old Brandon Swanson had just finished his first year at college and was out celebrating with friends. It was the evening of May 13th, and as the night wore on, Brandon decided to head home. He got into his car and began driving along the dark, rural roads he knew so well. But something went wrong. As Brandon drove, he veered off course and found himself stuck in a ditch on an isolated gravel road. Frustrated but not panicked, he called his parents for help around midnight. Brandon sounded calm, even upbeat, reassuring his parents that he was okay. He told them he didn't know exactly where he was, but believed he was near the small town of Lind. He planned to walk toward the town while they drove out to meet him. The road was dark, with no streetlights, and the night air was cold. Brandon's parents set off immediately, following his directions as he described the landmarks around him. But something strange happened. As Brandon walked, still chatting with his parents over the phone, his directions became increasingly confusing. He was sure he knew where he was, but they couldn't find him. Despite the dark, Brandon stayed calm, insisting he was walking toward a nearby town. His parents kept driving, desperately trying to locate him. And then, without warning, the phone went dead. His parents frantically called out his name, but there was no response. That was the last time anyone heard from Brandon Swanson. As panic set in, his parents called the police, and a massive search was launched. Over the following days, search teams scoured the area where Brandon's car had been found. Despite exhaustive efforts, using dogs, helicopters, and search parties combing every inch of the land, Brandon was nowhere to be found. His phone last pinged near the Yellow Medicine River, leading authorities to suspect he may have fallen into the water. But despite repeated searches of the river and the surrounding area, no trace of Brandon was ever recovered. It was as if he had vanished into thin air. To this day, the disappearance of Brandon Swanson remains one of the most chilling unsolved mysteries in Minnesota. Some believe he may have accidentally stumbled into the river, while others think something far more sinister may have happened that night. His parents were left heartbroken, haunted by the final moments they heard over the phone. The fear in Brandon's voice, the sudden silence, and the unshakable dread that something unimaginable had happened in the darkness. Brandon Swanson disappeared on what should have been a simple night drive home, leaving nothing but questions and the eerie reminder that sometimes the night swallows you whole. Our next story takes us to a quiet night on July 30th, 2008, along a lonely stretch of highway in Manitoba, Canada. 22-year-old Tim McLean was traveling home from work, sitting in the back of a Greyhound bus, drifting in and out of sleep. The journey was supposed to be routine, just another long drive across the prairies. But that night would become a nightmare that haunts everyone who heard about it. Tim had boarded the bus in Edmonton, Alberta, and was on his way to Winnipeg, Manitoba. It was an ordinary summer night, with passengers quietly going about their business. Tim, a carnival worker known for his bright spirit and friendly demeanor, was seated near the back of the bus, headphones on, likely lost in his own thoughts. At some point during the ride, a man named Vince Lee boarded the bus. He seemed unremarkable, quiet, with sunglasses and a blank expression. He sat near the front, but later moved to sit beside Tim. The two didn't know each other. As the bus rumbled through the night, everything seemed peaceful, until it wasn't. Without warning, Vince Lee produced a large knife and began stabbing Tim McLean in a sudden, unprovoked attack. The other passengers, shocked and terrified, screamed and fled to the front of the bus as the driver pulled over. They scrambled out of the bus, watching in horror as Lee continued his brutal assault. What followed was beyond comprehension. The police arrived, but by the time they were able to take Vince Lee into custody, the unimaginable had happened. Lee had decapitated Tim and held his head for all to see, as if the night had transformed into something out of a nightmare. The random and senseless nature of the attack sent shockwaves through the nation. Vince Lee was later found not criminally responsible due to mental illness, diagnosed with schizophrenia. While he received treatment and was eventually released under supervision, the memory of what happened on that Greyhound bus remains etched in the minds of all who remember the case. Tim McLean's murder stands as a chilling reminder that even on a seemingly ordinary night drive, horror can strike without warning, leaving behind nothing but pain, confusion, and the darkest of nightmares. Our final story takes us to one of the busiest highways in the UK, the M6 motorway, a stretch of road known for its heavy traffic and its share of eerie tales. On a cold, foggy night in December 2015, a group of 5 friends embarked on what they thought would be a simple road trip. Little did they know that this night drive would lead them into the heart of an inexplicable terror. As Lucy, the designated driver, navigated the dark lanes of the M6, the atmosphere inside the car began to shift. The radio played their favorite tunes, but the joy of the trip quickly turned to unease. The air felt thick, and a strange chill crept in, despite the heater blasting. Lucy felt a creeping sensation that something was wrong, as if they were being watched. Her friends, Mark, Sarah, Tom, and Emily, initially laughed off her worries, but it didn't take long for them to feel it too. Around midnight, as they drove through a desolate stretch of the motorway, the fog rolled in thicker than ever. Visibility was reduced to mere feet, the headlights barely cutting through the swirling mist. Suddenly, a figure emerged in the middle of the road. Lucy slammed on the brakes, but the impact was unavoidable. The horrifying sound of metal colliding with flesh echoed in the car as they skidded to a halt. Panic erupted as they all scrambled out of the vehicle, adrenaline surging through their veins. Their hearts raced, and dread settled heavily in their stomachs. Had they just hit someone? "Where are they?" Lucy gasped, scanning the dark road. Tom fumbled for his phone, trying to dial emergency services, but the signal was patchy in that isolated area. As they cautiously approached the spot where they thought the figure had been, a chilling realization sank in. There was nothing there. No body, no blood, no evidence of an accident. Just the fog, thick and oppressive, enveloping them in a ghostly shroud. They searched the area frantically, calling out for anyone who might have been injured, but only silence met their desperate cries. It was as if the figure had simply vanished. Feeling unnerved, they retreated to the car, hearts pounding and minds racing. As they got back inside, a cold sweat broke out on Lucy's brow. "What just happened?" she whispered, her voice trembling. Mark glanced around nervously, his own fear reflected in his eyes. "We have to get out of here," he urged, but even as he spoke, a deep sense of dread settled in the vehicle. They continued their journey, but the night was forever altered. The rest of the drive was spent in tense silence, the previous excitement of the trip overshadowed by an unshakable fear. Each shadow in the fog seemed to move. Each gust of wind sounded like whispers from the beyond. When they finally arrived at their destination, they were greeted by the comforting warmth of friends and laughter. But even in the glow of the lights, the memory of the dark road haunted them. That night, on the M6, they faced an encounter with something they couldn't explain, something that left a chilling mark on their souls. Was it a ghostly figure, a trick of the mind, or something far more sinister? The M6 has a reputation for the paranormal, with numerous drivers reporting strange sightings and sensations along its stretches. From phantom hitchhikers to inexplicable drops in temperature, the road has seen it all. For Lucy and her friends, it was a night drive they would never forget. A night filled with terror and mystery that lurked just beyond the fog, a reminder that sometimes the darkness holds secrets better left undiscovered. These stories, from the mysterious disappearance of Brandon Swanson, to the gruesome murder of Tim McLean, to the haunting apparitions on the M6, remind us of the terrifying and often unpredictable nature of the world around us. A simple night drive, something we've all done countless times, can quickly spiral into horror. Sometimes, it's the darkness that hides the dangers. Other times, it's the things that shouldn't exist, waiting just beyond the reach of our headlights. So next time you find yourself on a quiet, lonely road at night, remember these stories. Stay alert. Stay aware. Because you never know what could be waiting for you out there, in the dark. If these stories gave you chills, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more spine-tingling tales. And don't forget to hit the notification bell to stay updated. Until next time, stay safe on those night drives. And remember, not everything that haunts you in the dark is a ghost.